Right now, a percentage of every single pay packet you earn is going into a pension. Your employer is adding money on top of that, and for most UK workers, that money then disappears into something called a default fund, where it sits for decades without them ever looking at it, questioning it, or understanding what it is actually invested in. Your workplace pension is likely to be one of the largest financial assets you ever accumulate, and most people know almost nothing about how it works. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what your workplace pension is, where your money goes, how much you should be contributing, and what happens to it when you change jobs. A workplace pension is a retirement savings scheme set up by your employer. Every time you are paid, a contribution is taken from your salary and paid into a pension pot in your name. Your employer also makes a contribution on top of that, and because pension contributions are made before income tax is applied, the government effectively tops up your contribution through tax relief. So, 3 separate sources of money are going into your pension every month: your own contributions, your employer's contributions, and tax relief from the government. There are 2 main types of workplace pension in the UK. A defined contribution pension, which is the most common type. Your contributions and your employer's contributions are invested, and the pot you build up depends on how much was paid in and how those investments perform over time. The amount you retire with is not guaranteed. A defined benefit pension, sometimes called a final salary pension. These are increasingly rare in the private sector but still common in the public sector. Your retirement income is calculated based on your salary and years of service rather than on investment performance. If you are lucky enough to have a defined benefit pension, it is an extremely valuable benefit. For the purposes of this video, we will focus on defined contribution pensions, as these are what the vast majority of UK workers have. Since 2012, UK employers have been legally required to automatically enrol eligible workers into a workplace pension. This is called auto-enrolment, and it has been one of the most significant changes to UK retirement saving in a generation. If you are aged between 22 and state pension age, earning more than £10,000 per year and working in the UK, your employer must automatically enrol you. You do not have to do anything to join. You're in by default. You can opt out if you choose to, but if you do, you lose your employer contributions entirely. For most people, opting out of a workplace pension is one of the most expensive financial decisions they can make, because they are turning down free money from their employer. The legal minimum contributions under auto-enrolment are set by the government. In 2026, the total minimum contribution is 8% of qualifying earnings. At least 3% of that must come from your employer. The remaining 5% or more comes from you, though this is reduced slightly by tax relief. Qualifying earnings are not your total salary. They are calculated on earnings between a lower and upper threshold, which in 2026 sit at £6,240 and £50,270 respectively. This means if you earn below £6,240, that portion of your salary is not included in the pension contribution calculation. Once your contributions and your employer's contributions leave your payslip, where do they actually go? They go into a pension scheme managed by a pension provider. Common providers for workplace pensions in the UK include Nest, the People's Pension, Aviva, Legal and General, and Standard Life, among others. Your employer will have chosen a provider and set up the scheme. Within that scheme, your money is invested. This is the part most people never look at. Your contributions do not just sit in a savings account. They are invested in funds, which are collections of assets such as shares, bonds and property designed to grow over the long term. The specific fund your money goes into by default is called, unsurprisingly, the default fund. We will talk about that in the next section, because it is important. Your pension pot grows over time through a combination of ongoing contributions from you and your employer, investment returns on the money already in the pot, and the compounding effect of returns being reinvested over many years. The amount you end up with at retirement depends on how much was contributed, how long it had to grow, and how well the underlying investments performed. This is the section most workplace pension explainers skip over, and it is arguably the most important. When you are auto-enrolled, your money is invested in the default fund. The default fund is the fund your pension provider has chosen on your behalf. It is designed to be a reasonable choice for a broad range of people, and in many cases it is a perfectly decent option. But here is the problem. Most people never look beyond the default, and depending on your age, your risk appetite, and your retirement timeline, the default fund may not be the most appropriate choice for you. Default funds are typically designed to be cautious enough not to alarm people who are not paying attention. That caution can mean lower long-term returns than a more growth-oriented fund might provide, particularly for younger workers who have decades before they need to access their pension. Many default funds also include something called lifestyling or de-risking, which automatically shifts your investments towards lower risk assets as you approach retirement. This is sensible in principle, but the mechanics of how and when it kicks in are worth understanding. The action point here is simple. Log into your workplace pension provider's online portal, find out which fund your money is in, and look at what that fund is actually invested in. You do not necessarily need to change it, but you should know what it is. The legal minimum is 8% of qualifying earnings combined. For many people, that is not enough. The general rule of thumb used by financial planners is to contribute a percentage of your salary equal to half your age when you start. So if you start contributing at age 30, the guidance suggests contributing around 15% total, including employer contributions. Starting at 25 would suggest around 12 to 13%. This is a guideline, not a rule. Your actual target depends on when you want to retire, what income you want in retirement, and what other assets you are building alongside your pension. A useful way to think about it is to work backwards from your desired retirement income. If you want £25,000 per year in retirement, you need a pension pot of roughly £500,000 to £625,000 at retirement, depending on the drawdown rate you use. How much you need to contribute monthly to reach that depends entirely on how long you have until you plan to retire. We will cover retirement planning in much more detail in a dedicated video, but the key message here is this. If you are only paying the minimum 5% employee contribution, it is worth seriously considering whether you can increase that, even by 1% or 2% at a time. One final point on contributions. Most workplace pensions are set up so that if you increase your contribution, your employer does not automatically increase theirs beyond the minimum. However, some employers do offer enhanced matching above the minimum. Check your employment contract or speak to your HR department to find out whether your employer matches contributions beyond 3%. If they do, not contributing enough to receive the full match is leaving free money on the table. This is something millions of UK workers encounter, and most are not sure what to do. When you leave a job, your pension pot does not disappear. It stays where it is, with your previous employer's pension provider, and continues to be invested. You just stop receiving contributions from your employer, and your own contributions stop too. You have a few options at this point. Leave it where it is. This is the simplest option and perfectly valid, particularly if the pot is small or the fund performance is decent. The downside is that over a career you might accumulate several pension pots with different providers, which can become difficult to keep track of. Transfer it to your new employer's pension scheme. Most workplace pension providers allow incoming transfers. This consolidates your savings in one place, which is simpler to manage. Check the fees and fund options of both providers before transferring. Transfer it to a personal pension or CP. If you want more control over how your pension is invested, a self-invested personal pension gives you a wider range of fund options. We cover SIPs in a separate video. One important thing to check before transferring. Some older pension schemes, particularly defined benefit schemes, have valuable guarantees attached to them. Always take financial advice before transferring out of a defined benefit pension. To bring it all together, your workplace pension is one of the most valuable financial assets you will ever build. 3 sources of money are going in every month: your contributions, your employer's contributions, and tax relief. That money is invested in funds, most likely a default fund that you have probably never looked at. The minimum contribution is rarely enough for a comfortable retirement. And when you change jobs, your pension does not disappear, but it does need managing. Log into your pension portal this week. Find out what fund your money is in. Check whether your employer matches contributions beyond the minimum. These are small actions that could make a significant difference to the retirement you end up with. If this video helped you understand your workplace pension for the first time, subscribing takes 2 seconds and means you won't miss a video. We post twice a week on making your money work harder in the UK. And next up, we're looking at how to track down lost pensions, because the average UK worker has more than one pension pot and billions of pounds are sitting unclaimed right now.